Thank you very much, Chairman Massey, for your leadership as a volunteer and what you've done, not only at Midwest-Vaco and leading that great company here to the promised land in Richmond, Virginia over the years, but also your great work with the Chamber really has been terrific. And Barry, I thank you for the things that you do working with us regularly this last 3 years to be able to help create jobs and opportunities around the state. Delighted to see all of you here. I understand you've heard from the Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor, and Speaker, and Senate Majority Leader, and others. And I'm delighted to have a few minutes here at lunch. Did you guys already eat? Nope. Oh, can you serve them, please, while I'm eating? Okay. I don't want to get in the way of your menu. So, but I'm really a little upset, Ned, you brought up my football team, because I was just coming out of the state of mourning after 7 days. My tan is fading from Miami. I was getting back into the General Assembly funk. By the way, there are a lot of bugs up there. They bug me all the time when they're back in town. But Speaker is a good friend, and we are working together on issues that are important to you. But I do mean to start by saying thank you for a couple of great things you've done this last year, especially the partnership you've had with us to be able to help people in need during the holidays with the program and partnership with the food bank, having this Governor's Cup, or what do we call it, Governor's Bowl Challenge that we've put together. You've raised 700,000 pounds of food just in the first year. I know that's going to continue to grow, and I'm really grateful for that. You did a lot of great work for people in need, and it really are the values that represent the best and brightest things about our business community here in Virginia that cares deeply about giving back to the community, blessed by your own success, and I thank you for that. And secondly is, thanks for creating all those jobs. You know, Ned, you rattled off some of those details. These are all private sector jobs. All we try to do at the state level is to create the environment where you can grow, succeed, take risks, achieve the American dream, and create new jobs for your fellow Virginians. And so just keeping a good tax and regulatory climate, keeping high business rankings, being friendly to business, unlike some people on the other side of the Potomac. They have a little different view of the world from time to time. And we think success and making money is okay. We think that's a good thing, because the more you do that, the more opportunities we have for other people when they get out of school, career or college ready, to go find a good job. So thank you for your efforts and being great partners with me and our administration and trying to achieve these goals. Ned, I appreciate you rattling off that list of things that we've tried to accomplish. I think Virginia's in a better position than most states. I know you all were glued to C-SPAN for my State of the Commonwealth speech last Wednesday and probably didn't get up for that full hour, but if you missed it, what I said was a lot of what Ned just said in his remarks, and that is we've come a long way, I think, in being able to take on the challenges from the Wall Street meltdown in '08 to where we are now, both in jobs, $1.4 billion in surpluses, doubling the rainy day fund, creating a fact fund, getting rid of a lot of the gimmicks like the accelerated sales tax, which will be 98% eliminated at the end of this session if they adopt all my recommendations. So we've done a lot of things that are very positive, but there's still immense challenges left, not the least of which is the dysfunction in Congress. We think no governor could possibly run their state like the United States Congress and the President collectively are running the country, with $16 trillion in debt, adding $4 trillion on New Year's Day, no budget in almost 4 years. I mean, you just cannot run a business or a government like that, but that's what we face. And so it creates really an atmosphere of unprecedented uncertainty for those of us that are governing the states. We've got sequestration that we thought was just a phantom threat, and now it may actually go into effect. Very bad for Virginia's military and the U.S. military, but also the Virginia economy because of our dependence on the defense industry. And just the raft of unfunded mandates coming out of Washington, the things between the EPA and the health care bill creating many new challenges for those of you in business around the state. And so while we're in decent shape, we know we have to be ever vigilant when we are legislating and make sure we're prepared for the things that are coming out of Washington. And that's what you'll see in the budget that I introduced this year. It's very much cash-laden, and try to structurally balance the budget so we're ready for a lot of uncertainties that may come up. But as Ned mentioned, there's really two things I want to talk to you about today, and it's the top priorities that I've got for this session. And it's K-12 reform and it's transportation reform and reinvestment. And the reason for that is we kind of did an analysis looking backwards about the things that we've been able to address that help the entrepreneur and the business community, and things that are yet undone that are impeding your ability to grow jobs and opportunity and thus greater access to the American dream. And they came down to K-12 and transportation. I look back and we've made major strides in higher education with a tremendous reform initiative in 2011, about $380 million of new money. We dropped tuition now to the lowest level in nearly 15 years at 4%. That's a good start. We got to do better than that. We've reformed dramatically various parts of state government to get rid of boards and commissions and excess and fluff and stuff that we don't think we need in state government. We've had pension system reform to cut about $9 billion in unfunded liabilities over the next 20 years. We've had some fairly significant criminal justice reforms to continue to reduce crime. By the way, we're doing very well. I hope you've seen that in the places where you do business, but where our recidivism rate's about the fourth lowest in the country. The violent crime rate and the property crime rates are down now, some of the lowest rates in all of the country. We've done a lot on prisoner reentry and restoration of rights to try to keep people back on the straight and narrow. So it's a lot easier to run a business. You don't have to worry about having crime in your neighborhood or having crime in the neighborhood of people that come to work. And so there have been a lot of progress in a lot of those areas. But transportation and education reform are the two top ones. And I want to tell you just a little bit about what we're doing and then ask for your help. Because I can tell you, it doesn't matter how much I lobby, you all as lobbyists, talking to your legislators, especially when you can vote for them, is much more powerful than me beating on them on a regular basis. They're kind of used to that. But you taking time away from your job and talking to them about why it's important to you is vitally important. That's why I came down here to talk to you. We'll start with the premise that every young person should be career or college ready by the time they graduate from high school, or we failed. I mean, there's no other option. If you don't go to college, you don't have a job when you graduate from high school, you have dim prospects for being able to be self-sustaining and a good productive citizen. And so we have introduced a number of major reforms. You know, Virginia just got ranked as having the fourth best K-12 system in the country. And that's nice until you look at our international rankings, which finds America 14th in reading, 17th in math, and 25th in science. And then you realize we've got an ongoing challenge for you all to continue to run competitive businesses in a global economy. We've got to do a lot better, meaning you got to raise the bar and not just accept the fact that the status quo is good enough. And so we have major initiatives dealing with teacher professionalism, starting with a 2% pay raise, a $15 million incentive bonus program to actually start merit pay or strategic compensation, a series of other initiatives to bolster the professionalism of teachers. We need more great teachers. We've proposed to implement the Teach for America program in Virginia, which affirmatively recruits the best and brightest young folks out of college and then places them in underperforming or underserved or low-performing schools and hard-to-staff schools so that we can get great teachers in those schools. We're going to rate schools so parents know how their schools are doing. No more mumbo-jumbo. We're going to rate you A to F. Parents understand that. And I think that's worked in some other states. And then we're taking a zero tolerance for failing schools. We've got about 28 of them that aren't measuring up, they're underperforming or haven't done well enough on the the SOL test. And so the goal is this: you don't perform, you fail 2 years in a row, we're going to take you over. We're going to put a charter school there, put new management in there from the state, but we are not going to tolerate young people going to a school that chronically underperforms. It's just not acceptable for these young people. And so we're going to create an opportunity school district statewide, just like they did in Louisiana post-Katrina. It's worked down there. It can work here. And then with that and some other changes in the way we authorize charter schools, we can create some effective school choice. And the combination of all of those, more accountability, more appreciation for teachers, more lack of tolerance for non-performance of either teachers or for schools, I think will up the bar. We have some other initiatives with reading and algebra and some other things that I think will help. But the point is, you can't maintain your businesses without a great workforce. And it starts with having a great workforce program. I feel with the college initiatives that we've done, 100,000 new degrees in the STEM disciplines over the next 15 years that are now beginning to get funded, we can we can graduate the right kids in college if we get the right training in K-12. So that's the top initiative this year. And closely related to, we've got a fair number of workforce development initiatives. As I travel around the country, around the world, and try to get businesses to come into Virginia Beach, and Ned, I think you probably hear the same thing. People think, yeah, it's really nice you're going to write me a check to start, but what are you going to do for me long term to make sure my business can grow and be sustained and be able to have access to the human capital necessary for us to be productive and make money for a long time? So we've got to do better in the workforce development area, and with the Workforce Council and our new Workforce Development Coordinator, Elizabeth Kramer, we put together a series of initiatives that will be implemented legislatively and administratively that'll help to up that bar. So I'd ask for your help in those areas to support our K-12 reforms and our workforce development reforms. And then the second area, of course, is transportation that Ned and Barry talked about a little bit. I am out of tools, I'm out of excuses, and we're out of money. I mean, I don't know how much easier I can say. We got two problems. One is the congestion and impediment to job creation problem, the quality of life problem. And it's acute in Northern Virginia where I grew up. It's acute in Hampton Roads where I lived for 21 years. And there are challenges all over the state, whether it's congestion or whether it's access to better economic development through transportation. And so I want to look at the Texas Institute saying that we're the worst congestion in the country in Northern Virginia, when CNBC just knocked us from number 1 to number 3 in the business rankings. So that's not catastrophic, but it's the wrong way to go, and the only reason pretty much was your transportation infrastructure is not good. It causes us great concern. The second problem we have is a math problem, and it goes something like this. Since the gas tax was put in place in 1986, it has been the primary source of revenue to build transportation infrastructure. But over the last, between 2002 and 2006, we saw it sort of peak, and now the relative decline for three great reasons, the things that eat up the gas tax. One is inflation. Gas tax is worth about 45 cents on the dollar of what it was worth in 1986, while asphalt's grown about 300%. You get that problem? Revenues go down, costs go up, you know that. Secondly is you got alternative fuels, meaning more people are using hybrids, they're using electric cars, using natural gas cars, and so they buy less gas, and at a per gallon flat fee of 17.5 cents, it means less volume means less gas tax revenue. And finally is CAFE standards. In 1986, when that bill was passed, the average gas miles per gallon was about 10.7. Today it's 27.3. With CAFE standards, it'll be over 40. Another math problem, because with miles per gallon go up, in 30, 35 years, it goes up 3 times, or 4 times, you got a problem. So I have looked at everything I can possibly do. We have audited VDOT repeatedly. We found $1 billion sitting around over there. We've reformed VDOT. We've used public-private partnerships where you've got a lot of roads now, mega projects in Northern Virginia and Hampton roads that are going to be built with tolls. Some people don't like tolls, but I'm going to use the tools that I've got, and we're going to get those projects done. We had a major bond package 2 years ago that was enormously helpful in the short run for 4 or 5 years, about $3.5 billion. And so we've got $500 million that's earmarked for construction will be siphoned off just to fix potholes and to do paving, because under the law, that's the first claim on all transportation dollars. So the only way to get this fixed is there's got to be some changes in how we fund transportation. I have tried to put together a plan that is economically sound, that is that will actually fix the problem, and 3 can actually pass. Now that's been the problem for about 25 years. Is some people have been able to do one of those or two of those, but you can't actually get anything passed. And so the plan that we put together after a lot of input from legislators and people in the business community is a combination of new revenues and the use of general fund, as well as some expected revenues from the federal level. We're going to use about $300 million, and I'm talking about year 5 when this is all phased in, about $283 million of money from the general fund. It is unacceptable to say that we cannot use general fund money for transportation. We've had surpluses that have averaged $450 million the last couple of years. We've been growing at 4 or 5%, even in a down economy. We can absolutely use $50 million a year for the next 5 years for transportation. Secondly is to be able to increase a few fees. The registration fee I propose to go from $41 to $56. It's $15 a year. That generates about $110 million. We've also proposed a small fee for alternative fuel vehicles only because they don't use gasoline the way that the gasoline car user does, and therefore they don't pay their share of the expenses for the road. And so we recommended a small fee for various alternative fuel vehicles. Fourthly, we've recommended something that's pretty novel and pretty bold, and that is to basically get rid of the gas tax. I've mentioned the reasons why I believe it'll continue to decline. You can raise it, you can index it, but in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you're going to be right back here talking about why it's in decline and why you need more money. So I thought, let's get rid of it. And let's create a growth revenue source to fund transportation. Our proposal keeps the diesel tax because it's paid by out-of-state trucks, 70% of it, and trucks are responsible for 70-80% of the maintenance, the road wear and tear, because they're 60, 70, 80,000 pounds. And so it makes sense to maintain that tax, but get rid of the gas tax and convert it on a essentially revenue neutral basis to a growth tax, which is the sales tax. We currently already dedicate, and have for 27 years, 1/2 of 1 cent of the current 5 cent sales tax to transportation. So it's already been established. There is a relative nexus. You don't get those goods to your retail store unless you put them on a truck and get them there. So I believe it's relevant, and that'll generate significant money over time, because the sales tax grows, the gas tax is going down, and so that'll generate new money. And then finally, there's a new source of revenue I anticipate from the federal government, and I would never promise you that the federal government can do anything right now. But we have something called the use tax. Anybody familiar with the use tax? It's actually the sales and use tax. If you buy a widget in North Carolina or a computer or something over the internet, you all do know you're supposed to be paying taxes on that now, don't you? And all of you dutifully and regularly report that tax on your income tax return every year, don't you? Of course. I see most of you looking stunned because you didn't even know you're supposed to do that. That's my point. We have a tax that is basically dysfunctional. Nobody knows they're supposed to pay it. And so there's a new bill in Congress called the Marketplace Equity Act, the Marketplace Fairness Act, that'll basically use the Interstate Commerce Clause to allow those same taxes to be collected at the point of sale. The retailers on both the Amazons of the world and the Walmarts of the world have now come together to support it. And we anticipate new revenue coming from that. And I'm saying let's dedicate it to transportation. It's not money they count on now. It's not money that is currently being spent. And if you don't grab new money before it's spent, it's going to be spent on 100 other things, and transportation's a priority. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the plan. It'll generate in year 5 $845 million. I know some of you think it ought to be $1 billion or $1.5 billion or whatever, but it'll fix the maintenance deficit. It'll put another $350 million into other transportation purposes, and we'll create the sustainable long-term source of funding. Now, there are other ideas out there. There's at least 3 or 4 other bills that I'm aware of. I've heard that there'll be others. The good news is that most of the legislature believes transportation funding is a problem, and that we can't kick the can down the road. We're not Congress. We actually have to fix it, and this is as good a time as any to fix it. So I have been pretty adamant with the General Assembly that I want them to get this done this session, that I don't want to sign a budget that they send me without transportation money in there. But ultimately, I'll close where I started, and that is if they hear from you, they are going to be much more motivated to help. I want to say thanks to Barry and Ned for the Virginia State Chamber of Commerce being one of the first business groups to get on board with the transportation plan. It's been followed by the auto dealers, the Road Builders Association, the heavy utility contractors, a lot of the local chambers. I know the Hampton Roads Chamber, the Prince William Chamber, many of others, the Roanoke Chamber. Many of you have already come on board with letters of endorsement. Thank you very much. We have an ongoing list that we'll be announcing almost every day with new business groups that will come on board to support the plan. But what you need to help me do is create this sense of inevitability that something has to be done this session. This is my 22nd year in office. I haven't seen a time yet where people seem as motivated even though it's an election year for the House and an election year statewide. I haven't seen a time where people seem as willing on the left and the right and the middle to try to really do something, because I think we've all collectively convinced them this is a no BS problem, that we're out of answers and we're out of excuses and we got to get it done. So I ask for your help on that, on workforce development, on our K-12 package. I'm really convinced that with the great leadership of the Chamber and all of you talking to your legislators, sending them facts, tweets, Facebook. If you don't know how to use that, ask one of your teenage kids. They'll show you how to use that. Make sure they know it's important to you and your business. Call them on the weekend when they're home. That really is effective. Midnight is a good time. They're always usually home about then. And let them know that this is the year we got to get this stuff done. So thanks very much for giving me a few minutes to talk to you. I look forward to being a good ally for the business community. Thanks for your generosity, for the food banks. Keep being good corporate citizens. Keep growing jobs. And I look forward to continue to serve with you. God bless you.